Welcome back to the Severed Floor. This is episode 6 called Attila. Let's get into it. So the episode starts with Mark talking about the reintegration and him seeing his wife Gemma in the severed floor hallway. He's a little shooken up about it and of course wants to continue the reintegration process. Then it goes over to Milchek and Miss Wong talking about her finishing the Fellowship of Winter Tide and moving on to a different fellowship. After that, Mark lets Helly know about him and Helena hooking up, and she's kind of thrown off by it and of course upset by it, but now she knows why he's been kind of awkward around her. After that, we head over to Dylan and his wife doing another family meeting session thing. As they're ending their session, they go to hug and then they end up kissing, and while this is happening, Mark and Helly decide that they are going to hook up as themselves, not him and Helena. So Milchek is been doing this paper clipping, and so he finishes that and then looks in the mirror and starts dumbing down his language as per the performance review that he had that said he was using too many big words. After Mark and Helly hook up, he starts bleeding out the nose, and so Miss Wong is taking his blood pressure. He starts having crossover memories back and forth. He can't tell if he's on the severed floor or if he's back in his basement, so he's definitely getting confused with the reintegration. Then we head over to Irving, who's at Bert and Fields' house with some wine for the dinner they had previously agreed on. When they enter the house, Fields yells out Attila. That's the nickname, I guess, that they have for each other, which is also the episode title. As we continue on with the dinner scene, Bert and Fields start talking about innies having their own soul and that they can go to heaven. And so I guess the idea behind Bert getting severed was that his innie might be able to go to heaven even if his outie is going to hell. We head over to Dylan and his wife Gretchen talking about possibly buying a new car, and he asks her how the meeting went, and she actually lies and said that it was canceled, and previously she had kissed his innie at the meeting, so that kind of makes sense that she's not wanting to talk about it. Mark is at this restaurant eating tons of food because he got super hungry with the reintegration. Helena is there and she's kind of like flirting with him, and then she comes over and apologizes for the overtime contingency and his wife Gemma. It's just a weird scene. I guess she's curious about him in real life, or she's attracted to him, which kind of makes sense with the whole hooking up in the forest thing. There's a really quick scene with the guy that has the frolic hand tattoo looking through Irving's stuff and seeing the list he has of severed people, which included Bert. Bert and Fields explain that a while back they changed from calling each other Hun to calling each other Attila the Hun, or Attila for short. So that explains the episode title, and we kind of see that, I guess, Bert used to have a darker side or a scoundrel behavior, as Fields says. And as Fields gets a little more drunk, we hear him say they were doing something with Severance 20 years ago, and Bert corrects him because the Severance program wasn't supposed to be around until only 12 years ago. So that's a little interesting Easter egg / clue. Mark comes back home from seeing Helena and says that he wants to complete the reintegration, or he wants to remove the implant, and they end up doing a implant flooding with this juice stuff. Mark's sister Devin comes over and starts talking to him about her plans of exposing the Severance program, and he still hasn't told her that he's reintegrating yet, but he ends up passing out on the floor. Irving's leaving the dinner. Bert again brings up the Severance timeline with the 20 years versus 12 years, and then makes this suspicious face as he's closing the door. So maybe Outie Bert is evil and Innie Bert was good. Thanks again for joining me on that recap slash review of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will be doing the next episode right after.